Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the design architecture of systems like Blinkit, Zepto, Swiggy, Instamart, and let's say BB Now. So again, starts with the introduction. Those who don't know about these platforms, for them, I would like to give a brief introduction. So using these systems or platforms or let's say applications, you can get a home delivery of grocery items like milk, peanut butter, and so on. So this is about the systems. Now again, let's say you're in an interview of system design and an interviewer asked you to design, let's say, Blinkit. So how would you do? How would you approach this question? So the very first thing that should come into your mind are the functional and non-functional requirements of the system that you're going to build. So in case of Blinkit, what can be the functional and non-functional requirements? So let's discuss each in a sequence. So the first thing that we will be doing in this application is creating profile. So we will provide our basic information, our username, email address, phone number, and on the basis of this, system will create our profile. We will also provide our location. So this is about the first functional requirement. The next functional requirement is show products or items. Now when you open system like Blinkit or BB Now, Zepto, so it will first ask for location. Once you provide location, it will show all the items present in your nearby stores. So this is about the second functional requirement. The next functional requirement we can have is search or let's say browse products. Now let's say you want to buy peanut butter, so there should be functionality or there should be a search feature through which you can search a product. So this is about the third functional requirement. The next functional requirement that we can have is add to cart. So let's say I want to buy 3, 4 or let's say 5 items. So I would put these items into the cart first and then I'll check out. So there should be a functionality for add to cart and checkout. So this is our fourth functional requirement. Now we will also be managing inventory. Now why we are managing this inventory? Because this inventory will update us about the current stock of items. So this is about the fifth functional requirement. The next functional requirement that we can have is a place order. So it will process new orders and will communicate with the payment service for payment, and it will also update inventory. Let's say I bought an item, so it will reduce the item in inventory. So this is about sixth functional requirement. The next functional requirement that we can have is a live order tracking. So it will track your item or the live status of your item in real time via WebSockets. So this is about the seventh functional requirement. Now the next functional requirement that we can have is a ride allocation. So after placing an order, this system will assign a delivery partner to you. Let's say Blue Dart. This system will assign a delivery partner to you, and this delivery partner will be responsible for the delivery of your item. So this is about the eighth functional requirement. The next functional requirement that I can see is support. Let's say you could not get an item because of XYZ reasons. So there should be functionality through which you can get the guidance on your order and through which you can track your order easily. So this is about the ninth functional requirement. So we are pretty much good with the functional requirements now, and let's discuss non-functional requirements of our system. So non-functional requirements are the requirements that do not affect the flow of the user, but it rather affects the experience of the user. Now what does that mean? So let's say you opened the Blinkit application and you updated your location. Now you are waiting for items to get reflected in your feed. but it is taking too long to get reflected in your feed, let's say 100 seconds. So it is obviously not a good thing. So this is one of our non-functional requirement, which we call low latency. Low latency means server should respond to your request in a minimal time. In the case of Blinkit, the case that I discussed, so in this case system is not responding fast. So this is about our first non-functional requirement, which is low latency. The next functional requirement that we can have is a high availability. So during festive seasons, such system handles huge traffic. So it shouldn't be the case that after getting huge traffic or huge load, our system got crashed. So it shouldn't be the case. So our system should always be highly available. The next non-functional requirement that we can have is strongly consistent. That means whatever changes we made should be immediately reflected into the database. Now let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say two guys or two users buying a peanut butter, and there's only one stock available of peanut butter in the inventory, and let's say user 1 bought this peanut butter. Now this change should be immediately reflected into the database, so that this user 2 will get to know that okay, this item has been sold out now. So this is about the third non-functional requirement. But according to CAP theorem, a system cannot be highly available and strongly consistent at the same time. So how we can avoid this constraint? So in order to avoid this constraint, we will make few services as highly available and few services as strongly consistent. And if we do this, we can easily avoid the constraint of CAP theorem. The next non-functional requirement that we can have is a scalability. So as we discussed that during festive seasons, such applications handles huge traffic or huge load. So according to load or according to traffic, our system should scale up, or according to load or according to traffic, our system should scale down. So this is about the fourth non-functional requirement. The next non-functional requirement that we can have is a strongly concurrent. Now what does that mean? So our system should handle only one request at a time. Now let's consider the same case. Let's say two users want to buy peanut butter. So system should handle request of only one user at a time. So this is about the fifth non-functional requirements. So we are pretty much good with the functional and non-functional requirements. In the next video, we will be discussing about different kind of services that our system can have. Basically, we will translate functional requirements into services. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in a previous video, we discussed about functional and non-functional requirements for Blinkit. In this video, we are going to discuss about different kind of services that our system can have. Why services? Because here we are considering, let's say, Blinkit as a microservice architecture in which we will be having multiple services. So how we are going to get these services, or how we are going to know about these services? Basically, we will translate functional requirements that we discussed in a last video into services. So the first functional requirement that we have is a create profile. So we translated this functional requirement into user profile service, in which user will create his profile and will update his basic information, let's say his phone number, email address or location. The next functional requirement that we have is a show products. So we have translated this functional requirement into location service. Why? Because this show product functional requirement will be completely based on user's location. This system will recommend products to user who are currently in the stores. That means they are in stock in the nearest location of user. So this is about the second service that we have. The next service that we have is a cart service. Basically, we will add items to the cart. So for that, we have cart service. We will be managing plenty of things here. We will cover this when we will discuss about cart service. The next service that we have is a live live order tracking. So we will track the order, what's its status in real time. The next service that we have is an inventory service. Basically, we translated inventory management functional requirement into inventory service, in which we will be discussing about stock management and stock updation. The next service that we have is a payment service. Basically, we translated payment functional requirement into this payment service. The next service that we have is a ride allocation and delivery service. So after placing an order, system will allocate the rider or allocate the delivery partner to some user. So we translated this functional requirement into ride allocation and delivery service. The next service that we have is a support service, which we get from support functional requirements. That means we translated this support functional requirement into support service, in which system will support user if he has any query. So these are the services that our system will have. In the next video, we will be discussing about the location service or recommendation service of our system. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in a previous video, we discussed about different kind of services of our system. In this video, we are going to discuss about the location service of our system. We'll understand this service with the help of example, how system recommend different products to user. So this product recommendation will be based on two parameters. First, on user's location, and second, frequently accessed products. So let's try to understand the first case now, which is a location. So when you open Blinkit or any application, you provide your location, and on the basis of this location, system will recommend all the products available in your nearby stores. So let's see how it works. So let's say here we have a user, and this user provided location to system, or let's say Blinkit. So the request will go to the server or system along with the latitude and longitude of the user. Now this request will first interact with the gateway, which is a routing mechanism that we are using. Now this gateway will forward this request to user profile service for authentication. Since the authentication mechanism in user profile service, we have discussed about user profile service a lot in previous videos, IRCTC video or Make My Trip video. So I'm not covering that service in this video. So this gateway will forward this request to user profile service for authentication. Now this user profile service will send yes or no response to gateway. If user is an authenticated user, then user profile service will send yes response, and if user is not an authenticated user, then user profile service is going to send no response to the gateway. Now after authentication, this gateway will forward this request to location service along with the latitude and longitude. Now the question is how this location service will find all the nearby stores in user's location. So for this location service uses a Google S2 library, or let's say GeoHash. So what this GeoHash and Google S2 library does, it actually divides the world map into smaller grids or smaller chunk, in which each chunk, let's say this chunk, represents a region, and we call this chunk as a cell or grid, or let's say GeoHash. So this Google S2 library or GeoHash will convert the entire map of Earth into smaller grids. This location service send the latitude and longitude of the user to Google S2 library or GeoHash, and then this GeoHash or Google S2 library will convert this latitude and longitude of the user's location into a grid ID or cell ID. Let's say the cell ID or grid ID of user's location is 5. So this Google S2 library or geohash will return 5 to location service. That means user is currently in the 5th cell of the grid or the map. Now this location service will send this cell ID to the inventory service, which is managing the current stock, and it also updates the stock. So this location service will send cell ID to the inventory service. Now in a map of Earth there can be billions or millions of cells. So one server will not be able to handle all the cells. So what we will do, we will create different servers for that, just to balance the load, and we will connect those server in a ring like structure. Ring like structure, that means we are using consistent hashing. So let's say this is our server 1, server 2, server 3, and here we have server 4, and this is server 5. So just to balance the load on different servers, we used load balancing technique, that is consistent hashing. Now this location service sent cell ID 5 to the inventory service. Now we have discussed that one server is not going to manage or handle all the cells. So let's say there are 10 cells currently in a map. So this server 1 is managing first and second cell, server 2 is managing third and fourth, S3 is managing fifth and sixth cell, this is managing seventh and eighth, and this is managing ninth and 10th cell of the map. Now this location service sent cell ID 5, that means user is currently present in the fifth cell of the map. So this inventory service will contact with one of the server. In this case, this inventory service will contact with the S3 server. Now what is the work of this S3 server? So this S3 server will find all the stores in the fifth cell. Let's say this is our fifth cell that represents a region or location. So this S3 server will find all the stores that are connected with Blinkit. So it will find all the stores in the fifth cell and make a list of all the products that are present in the stores of a fifth cell. Then this S3 server will return the list of products to the inventory service, and then this inventory service will apply filters and aggregations, different aggregations, and then this inventory service will send this list of products to user via gateway. So this is the one way we can recommend products to user. Now let's discuss the second way, that is frequently accessed products. Now let's say I search for protein items twice in a day. So this system will identify that okay, he is looking for protein products, let's say peanut butter or soya chunks. So this system will recognize or identify that okay, he is looking for protein products. Now here we are going to use sharding technique to recommend different products to user. So let's discuss how we are going to achieve this. So we have a large or huge database. So we will divide this database into different shards. Basically we will distribute the data based on the values in column. So we have distributed the database into different shards, and let's say the column name is product name or product category. So let's say there's a shard and its category is, let's say, protein item. So the system will recognize that okay, this user is looking for protein products continuously. So this system will put me in this shard. Now whenever I will open my Blinkit or let's say BB Now, this shard will present me the data. That means I will get the data from this shard. So this is how our recommendation system or product recommendation will work. Since these items are frequently accessed by me, so we can use Redis cluster for that, for faster retrieval. So we can use cache memory, that is nothing but the Redis clusters. So this is all for the recommendation system or location service. In the next video, we will be discussing about the cart service of our system. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in a previous video we discussed about location service, or we can say recommendation service of our system. In this video we are going to discuss about the search service of our system, how we are going to perform search for different products. So in order to understand this search service, we first need to understand what we are going to search. So our searching will be based on two parameters. First is a product name. So you might be searching products using their name. You will just put the name of a product that you want to buy. Let's say you want to buy milk, so you will simply write milk on the search bar. Then you will get all the related searches to milk, or we can say you will get all the related search based on the availability of that resource. So this is the first thing that you will be searching, or we can say this can be the first parameter of search. The next parameter that we can have is a product category. Now let's say you want to buy an item who contains protein, or we can say lot of protein. So it might be the case that you will be searching product based on the category. Let's say you will simply write protein on search bar. So you will get all the resources, or we can say all the matches related to that category. So this can be the second parameter for search. So you can consider these two parameters as a keyword. That means our searching will be based on keywords. Now it can be the case that you might not know the exact spelling of an item that you are looking for. So in this case, I want my system to allow me to do fuzzy searching, or we can say wildcard based searching, keyword based searching, and I also want my system to auto complete the sentence. Let's say if I write MI, then it should suggest me milk. So I want this functionality, or we can say auto suggestion functionality as well. So the question is, where are we going to store this product data or product metadata? So we need 4-5 functionalities. First is a fuzzy searching, if I don't know the exact spelling of an item or category. Second is wildcard based searching. Third is keyword based searching. That means using product name, category name. And I also want auto suggestion functionality. So what kind of database are we going to use for this search service? So the database that we are going to use for this search service is Elasticsearch Cluster, because Elasticsearch Cluster provides us all the functionality that I wanted for search service. Now the question is how this Elasticsearch Cluster will get the data, or we can say how this Elasticsearch Cluster will know that okay, this is the product category or this is the product. So in order to understand this, let's understand the flow of search service, how this search service is going to function. But before understanding search service, let's first discuss one more important service, or we can say the core service of our system. That is nothing but inventory service. So this inventory service will be responsible for the current stocks. That means this service will tell which items are currently in stock and which items are currently out of stock. So this service will be responsible for that. This service will basically check in its database and will tell us about the availability of products. So this service will tell us about the availability of products, or we can say it will update us about current stock. So this is the work of inventory service. Now let's discuss the flow of search service, how we are going to perform search. So let's say here we have a user, and this user wants to buy peanut butter. So this user will make a request that I want to buy peanut butter. So this user will send peanut butter and also send latitude and longitude of its current location. Now this request will interact with the gateway first, and this gateway will forward this request to the user profile service for authentication. So here we have a profile service for authentication. Now this user profile service will send yes response if user is an authenticated person, and this user profile will send no if he is not an authenticated user. Now this gateway will forward this request to search service. So here we have a search service. Now this search service will further forward this request to the location service along with the latitude and longitude of user's location. Now what this location service will do, this location service will send users latitude and longitude to the Google S2 library. Now what this Google S2 library will do, it will recursively divide Earth's map into smaller grids. So let's say here we have a map of Earth. So this Google S2 library will divide Earth's map into smaller grid, and each grid, or we can say chunk, represents a region. Now this Google S2 library will send grid ID, or we can say cell ID, to the location service that okay, currently user is in this location, or we can say this grid. Let's say Google S2 library returns grid ID 5, that means user is currently in the 5th grid of the map, and here location service will send latitude and longitude to Google S2 library. Now this location service will return this grid ID 5 to search service. Now the search service has the product name, that is nothing but peanut butter, and it also has the cell ID, or we can say grid ID, which represents the current location of user. Now the search service will go to the Elasticsearch cluster and will ask for all the related matches related to that peanut butter search. Now what this Elasticsearch cluster will do, so this Elasticsearch cluster will make a list of all the products related to this peanut butter category, and then this Elasticsearch cluster will return the list of all the products to search service. Now this Elasticsearch cluster is just storing the information of products, information of category, but this Elasticsearch cluster is not a source of truth. That means this Elasticsearch cluster doesn't know about the current stock, or we can say this Elasticsearch cluster will have no idea which item is currently in stock or which item is currently out of stock. So this is the reason this Elasticsearch cluster will send list of products to search service instead of sending this list to user directly. So this Elasticsearch cluster will send list of product to search service. Now we have discussed that current stock will be managed by inventory service. So this search service has the list of products now. Now what this search service will do, it will send the list of products and grid ID, or we can say cell ID, to the inventory service, because inventory service is responsible for managing the current stocks, or we can say this service will tell which items are currently in stock and which items are currently out of stock. So this inventory service will receive the list of product, and it will also receive the grid ID, or we can say cell ID. Now there can be millions or let's say billions of cell in the map, so one server will not be able to handle all the traffic and will not be able to handle all the cells. So this is the reason we can create, or we can have multiple servers in our system. So let's say here we have different servers. We have server 3, here we have one more server, here we have one more server, and here we have one more server. Now let's say this is server 1, this is we have server 2, here we have server 3, server 4, here we have server 5, 6, and here we have 7. Now let's say hypothetically there will be 10 cells in the map, and first cell is managed by S1 server, second is managed by S2, third is managed by S3, fourth and fifth is managed by S4, 6th is managed by S5, 7th is managed by S6, and 8th, 9th and 10th are managed by S7 server. Now this search service will send list of products and grid ID, or we can say cell ID, to the inventory service. Now this inventory service will contact with one of the server. In this case, this will contact with the server who is responsible for managing grid ID 5. In this case, S4 server is managing the grid ID, or we can say cell ID 5. So this inventory service will contact to S4 server. Now what this S4 server will do, and one more thing here, that each server will have its own database. So here we will be having database for S4. Similarly, each server will have its own database. Now what this S4 will do, it will check in its database. Basically this database will be storing the information of all the stores and products available in the 4th and 5th cell. So this is this information that we are storing in the database of S4 server. So now this S4 server is managing the 5th cell. That means data related to 5th cell will be in his database. So we will be searching that peanut butter in this database of S4, and now this database will have the update of current stocks. So this database will return the list of products, or we can say products that are currently in stock, to this inventory service. Now this inventory service has the list of products, or we can say all the matches related to peanut butter and matches that are in stock as well. So this inventory service will perform some aggregations and will sort them on the basis of their price or any other parameter, and then this inventory service will send this list or list of product to user. So this is the flow of search service. This is how user gets all the matches related to his search. Elasticsearch cluster is not a source of truth, and this is the reason we are validating about the product availability using this inventory service. Now we have discussed that we are going to store product data, product metadata, or we can say product detail in Elasticsearch cluster. But the question is how we are going to store this information, product information or product metadata information, in this Elasticsearch cluster. So let's try to understand this with the help of example. So basically this Elasticsearch cluster will get the data, or we can say product data, product metadata, through some Kafka queue. So the flow will look like this. Here we will be having this Kafka queue, and on the one side of the Kafka queue there will be producers who will generate a topic or generate a payload for every new entry, or we can say whenever a new product or new product category will be added, these producers will create or generate a topic or payload regarding that entry or item, and this payload will look like this. It will be having product ID, name, brand, category, description, price, and lot more things. So these producers will generate a payload, and whenever a new product will be added, these producers triggers an event and will send this event, or we can say topic payload, to Kafka queue. Now on the other side of the Kafka queue there will be search consumers who will listen to those topics and events, and then these consumers, or we can say search consumers, send this data, send this payload to Elasticsearch cluster. So this is how Elasticsearch cluster will get the data, or we can say this is how we are going to store entry for new product in Elasticsearch cluster. Now who will be the consumer and who will be the producer in case of Blinkit? So what this producer is actually doing, so whenever a new product or new product category will be added in the store, these producers will generate a topic or generate a payload regarding that product, and these producers will trigger an event and they will send this event to Kafka queue, and here will be search consumers who will listen to those Kafka events and will send these events to Elasticsearch cluster. Now, who will act as a producer here? So, in each store who is associated with Blinkit, there will be having some kind of store management system, or we can say dashboard kind of page. And in this page, we will be adding entry for new products. So let's say a new product will be added in the store. So this entry will be added in this dashboard page, and whenever a product will be removed, its entry will be deleted from this dashboard page. So this is how we are going to use store management system. And let's say this store management system is handled by a service called store service. So in case of Blinkit, this store management system is working as a producer. Whenever a new product will be added in the store, this store management system will be updated using this store service, or we can say we will add entry for new product in this dashboard page. So this store management system will act as a producer here. So here, store management system will act as a producer. Now, who will act as a consumer? So in this case of Blinkit, inventory service will act as a consumer who will listen to those topics and events for new product. So let's see its final flow now. So here we will be having Kafka queue, and here we will be having the store management system who will act as a producer, and these producers will generate topic and will send those topics or event to Kafka queue. And there will be search consumers on the other side of the Kafka queue, and in this case search consumer will be inventory service. So this inventory service will act as a consumer, search consumer, who will listen to those topics and events, and then this inventory service will send these topics or product data to Elasticsearch cluster. So this will be the final flow for search service. This is how Elasticsearch cluster will get updated, or we can say this is how Elasticsearch cluster will get the data. Now this store management system is managed by this store service. So we can create CDN on top of this store service, because each item will be associated with some kind of image, or we can say image of product. So whenever a new item will be added in the store, this store service will update store management system, and this store service will also store static data, or we can say images, into CDN for faster access or faster retrieval. So this is all about for search service. In our next video, we will be discussing about one more important service of our system, Blinkit system, that is nothing but a cart service. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in a previous video, we discussed about search service of our system, how we are going to browse product, how we are going to make a search for different products, what database are we going to use for this search service. We have discussed all the things. Now in this video, we are going to discuss about one more important service of our system, that is nothing but the cart service. So cart is kind of bag. Let's say if you want to buy 4 or 5 products, so you will just put all the products in the cart and then you will buy them. So this is what cart does. So the very first thing, what will be the flow? So let's try to understand this with the help of example, and then we'll make a choice of database for this cart service. So let's say here we have a user, and this user wants to buy 4 or 5 products. So he will make a request. This request will interact with the gateway. So here we have a gateway routing mechanism, and here we will be having some authentication stuff using user profile service. This user profile service will return yes, that okay, he is authenticated user. Now this request will interact with the location service, will provide latitude and longitude of the user's current location to the location service, and then this location service will use Google S2 library to convert user's latitude and longitude into grid, or we can say cell ID. Now this Google S2 library will send, let's say, cell ID 5, that okay, user is currently in the 5th cell of the map. Now this location service has the grid ID. Now if you want to buy something, you need to browse products. That means you will invoke search service, and then the search service will go to Elasticsearch cluster and will ask for products. Then this Elasticsearch cluster will return list of products, or we can say details of products, to this search service, and then we are going to store this data to Redis for faster retrieval. So here we will make a request for search, let's say for peanut butter. So the search service will get invoked. So here search service will get invoked. Now the search service will go to Elasticsearch cluster for data, and then this Elasticsearch cluster will return list of products to search service. Now the search service will store this data into Redis for faster retrieval. So here we will be having Redis, and we will store this data, or we can say all the matches that Elasticsearch cluster returned. So we will store all this data to Redis so that you can access them further. So here we will be storing all the matches related to peanut butter in Redis for faster retrieval. Now if you want to buy peanut butter from a particular brand, so you will click on that, and a get call will go to Redis and will fetch that product. Now let's say if you really want to buy that product, so you will click on add to cart button. The moment you will click on add to cart button, cart service will get invoked. So here we will be having cart service. So this is going to be the flow till cart service, or we can say this is how cart service will get invoked. Now two main questions. First, what is the need of cart? So let's say if you want to buy 25 or 30 items together, so you will directly put all the items into the cart and can buy whenever you want, instead of recollecting all the items again. So this is the reason we are having cart in our system. Now the second question, where are we going to store this cart data? So cart data is something that is going to be very frequently accessed. You will add products to the cart, you will remove products from the cart. So this cart data is going to be very frequently accessed. So can we use Redis for this cart service, or we can say storing cart data? Actually we can, and we will be using Redis, but the data that you are going to store in Redis, or we can say cache memory, is not going to be permanent. So this data can be lost. So we also need some kind of storage that will allow us to store cart data permanently. So before making any choice of database for cart service, let's consider two things. First, we need permanent cart. That means I don't want cart who will get expired in 24 hours or let's say 48 hours. So I want a permanent kind of cart. Let's say I added 4-5 items into the cart today, and then I uninstalled the application, and when I will reinstall that application again, let's say after 2 months, I want my system to show all the products in cart that I added 2 months back. So this is the first thing that I want to consider before making choice of database for cart service. The next thing is device change. Let's say I am using Blinkit on my one phone, and then I changed my device and installed Blinkit on this phone with the same number, or we can say same credentials. So in this case as well, I want my system to show me all the product into the cart that I added through other phone. So these are the two things, or we can say these are the two cases that I need to consider before making any choice of database for card service. Using these two cases, we can identify that apart from Redis, we need something for permanent storage, or we can say we need a database who will store card data permanently. Because we can't rely on Redis completely, this Redis data can be lost, so we need something for permanent storage. So this is the reason we are going to use another database who will store card data permanently. But what is the choice of database, SQL or NoSQL? So before making choice of database for card service, let's talk about some of the ballpark figures. So according to some reports, there are 2 million writes happen on Blinkit per day. That means 2 billion buys happen per day on Blinkit, which is a huge number. So our system is definitely going to be read heavy as well as write heavy. So NoSQL database would be a good choice for storing card data. Using NoSQL database, we can store large volume of data. So we can use Cassandra or DynamoDB database for card service. Now let's see how it works. So let's say here we have a user, and this user wants to buy 4-5 products. So first request will interact with the gateway, and then it will interact with the location service, search service. So we have discussed this here, so no need to discuss that again. Now this gateway will forward this request to the card service. Let's say this user wants to buy 4-5 products. Now what this card service will do, it will first store that data into database, which is a NoSQL database that we are using for card service, and then this card service will also store this data into Redis for faster retrieval. Now whenever this user will come to the cart again, it will read that data from Redis instead of database. So this is how we will reduce the load from database, and using this database as a permanent storage, we will ensure that data is not going to be lost. So this is pretty much for card service. Now one more thing, I forgot to mention these two cases, or we can say what will be the flow for these two cases. So first we have permanent cart. So let's see the flow for permanent cart. So let's say here we have a user A, and this user wants to buy 4-5 products. So he will store that data into cart. So request will first interact with the gateway. We have discussed about location service and search service. Actually this request will first interact with the location service, then search service. So we have discussed that flow, so skipping that flow here. Now this request will interact with the cart service. So here we are having cart service. Now this user wants to put all the items in cart. So what this cart service will do, it will first store that cart data into database, or we can say permanent storage, and here this cart service will also store this data into Redis cluster for faster retrieval. Now let's say because of some XYZ reason this Redis got crashed. So what will happen in this case? Now let's say this user wants to see the products, or we can say the user wants to fetch all the items stored in his cart. So he will make a get request will interact with the cart service. Now this cart service will see that Redis has been crashed, so it will check that is there any data for that user in database, and database will say yes, we have that data. So this database will return that data, and then this cart service will return this data to user A. So this is the need of permanent storage if Redis got crashed because of some XYZ reason, or we can say its limit has been reached because it has limited memory. So in this case we need something for permanent storage, and this is the reason we are using NoSQL database for that, because of system's write heavy behavior. So this is the first case. The next case that we can have is a device change. So what will happen in this case? So let's say here we have two devices for same user, let's say device A and device B. Now Blinkit is installed in this device, let's say. So what this device A will do, and here we have a cart service. So this user will interact, or we can say device will interact with the cart service and will store data in database. Let me create Redis here. So here we are having data Redis, and here we are having database. So this cart service will store that data into Redis, and it will also store that data into database. Now let's say this user A wants to change his device. So he will change his device and will install Blinkit application using same credentials, or we can say same phone number on this B device, and will ask for cart data, let's say, or we can say all the items that are stored in the cart. So user B will ask for that data. Request will interact with the gateway. Now this request will interact with the cart service, and then this cart service will read that data from database and will store that data into Redis for further use. I wrote Redis here and then Redis here. That doesn't mean both the users, or we can say both the device, will have different Redis. It is just for understanding purpose, just to explain well. So this is going to be the flow for device change. Now one more thing. Let's say here we have a cart service, and let's say here we have this user, and this user added items into the cart. So here we have gateway. Request will first interact with the gateway. Now let's say this user wants to buy 4-5 products. So there will definitely be a order service, order service. Order service, and this service will be responsible for placing an order. Now we have stored data in cart. That means we store cart data in database as well as Redis. So this cart service will read that data. Here I'm talking about the case in which user wants to buy all the products. So let's say this cart service will read that data from database or Redis. Now is this cart service directly going to interact with the order service, or there will be some more stuff? So the cart service, or we can say data stored in cart, so it is stored in database and Redis. So this cart service is not going to be the source of truth, because the availability of stocks will be managed by inventory service, and this cart service is not storing real-time data. Let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say this user A added 6-7 items into the cart, and let's say it came back to the Blinkit again after 4-5 months. So he will fetch all the products from cart. Now it might be the case that all the items or products that he added into the cart may not be available at that time, or we can say they are currently out of stock. So cart service will have no idea about this, or we can say the data stored in database and Redis will have no idea about this. So before checkout, or we can say before placing an order, this cart service should interact with the inventory service. Inventory service for current stocks, or we can say for the update of current stock. So this inventory service will tell whether the item that you are looking for, or we can say the items that you wanted to buy, are currently in stock or not. So before placing an order, or we can say before checkout, this cart service will fetch data from database and or we can say Redis, and then this cart service will send data to inventory service, or we can say list of products to inventory service, to check whether the items are currently in stock or not. So this inventory service will check in its database, because this inventory service is responsible for current stock, or we can say real-time data. So this inventory service will check in its database whether the item are present in the stores or not. If items are present in the stores, this data will be sent to cart service, and now this cart service can call or can invoke order service. So this is how cart service will do validation, or we can say validation of products, whether the items are available or not, or we can say it will check whether the item is out of stock or in stock. So this is about the second case. Now one more thing here, this cart will auto remove the product if it is unavailable, or we can say if product is out of stock, then this cart will auto remove that product. But the question is how this cart will get this information. So for that, this cart will be using some Kafka queue, but the question is how this Kafka queue will get the data. So let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say here we have a cart service, and this cart service interacts with the inventory service for current stock, or the updation of current stock, or we can say current availability of product. Now there will be something called store management system that is managed by store service. So each store will have store management system kind of dashboard. In this store management system kind of dashboard, each store, or we can say employees from that store, will add entries for product. If let's say new product came, or we can say product got removed, or we can say product got out of stock, or product are in stock, so the employees of this store will make entry in this store management system, and an event will be occurred. So this event will be sent to inventory service via some Kafka queue. So here we will be having Kafka queue. Now in this case, store management system will act as a producer who will generate the topic or payload, or we can say who will generate the event. And the moment event will be triggered, this event will be sent to Kafka, and then this event will be sent to inventory service. And in this case, this inventory service will act as a consumer, and this will act as a producer who will generate the topic, or we can say this store management system triggers an event. Now inventory service has that update, or we can say event. But how this inventory service will send this data to cart service? So again we will be using some Kafka queue for that. So here we will be having Kafka queue. Now in this case, inventory service will act as a producer and will send this event to Kafka, and then there will be cart service who will act as a consumer and will listen to those Kafka events. So this is how cart service will get the data, or we can say this is how cart service will get to know that okay, this item is currently out of stock, so I have to remove this item. So this is pretty much for cart service. Now in the next video we will be discussing about the order service of our system, live tracking, how the live tracking works, and one more thing, delivery service. So we will see all the services in sync. So yeah, this is pretty much for this video. We'll see you in the next video. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. So in a previous video we discussed about cart service of our system. We have discussed the flow of cart service, how the cart service is going to function, and we have also made a choice of database for cart service. We have discussed different cases, and we also discussed that we need a permanent kind of cart. So we have discussed enough for cart service. Now in this video we are going to discuss about few more services of our system, that is going to be order service, delivery service, store service, and live order tracking service. So we'll see how these services work together. But in order to understand the working of each service and how they work together, we first need to understand what each service is functioning. So first we have a order service. So this order service will be responsible for placing an order, or we can say confirming an order. So this is about the order service. Next we have store service. So this store service is doing two things. first, let's say a new item added in the store. So employees of that store, let's say this is the store we have named as A. So the employees of this store will add the entry, or we can say will update the store management system that we have discussed, store management system. So we have discussed that each store will have some kind of store management system. So employees of this store A will send a request to add that item into store management system, or we can say to update about that item in store management system. So this request will interact with the store service. So here we have store service, and then this store service will update store management system that okay, new item is added. And when this store management system receives an update, it triggers an event. So this is the first thing that store service is functioning. Now let's see the one more functionality of store service. So let's say someone placed an order. So here we will be having order service. Now this order service will have all the data related to product, in which store this product is available. So it will also have the store ID. Let's say store ID is 1. So this order service will send this data to store service. Now what this store service will do, it will find out appropriate store. Let's say here we will be having 3 stores, store 1, store 2 and store 3. So this store service will match the store ID and will send that request to that store. So let's say in this case the request will go to store 1. So it will send product data, or we can say product detail, payment detail and payment type and other things related to product. So this is the functioning, or we can say this is the functionality that store service is providing. Now the next service that we can have is delivery service. So this delivery service will be responsible for find out appropriate delivery partner and a driver who will deliver that order to user. So this is the functioning of delivery service, and this delivery service will make sure that the delivery partner that they are selecting will be close to the user, and it will also be close to the store. So this is the functionality of delivery service. The next service that we have is a live order tracking service. Live order tracking service. So this service will be responsible for tracking the live update, or we can say real-time update of order, what's the status of the order and lot more things. So this is about the services that we are going to discuss. Now let's see the flow, or we can say let's see how these services work together. So we have discussed in a last video how the flow comes to order service, but let's discuss that one more time. So before checkout, cart service will validate whether the products are currently available or not. So for that, this cart service will interact with the inventory service and will check whether the items are currently in stock or not. If items are currently in stock, then this inventory service will first check in its database, and then this inventory service will return yes, that all the items that you are looking for are present. Then this cart service will forward this request to order service, and this is how control comes to order service. So here we will be having order service, and this comes from cart service. Now here we will be having delivery service, and here we will be having store service. So now the moment this order service will receive the update that okay, there's some user and he wants to buy let's say 4 or 5 products. So what this order service will do, it will interact with the inventory service. Since inventory service is responsible for the availability of current stock, so it will interact with the inventory service, and in the database of inventory service it will log the assignment. Let's say user wants to buy peanut butter and there's only one stock, or we can say one item left for peanut butter. So let's say here we have peanut butter, and there's only one stock left for peanut butter. So what this order service, or we can say what this inventory service will do in this case, it will log this assignment. So this assignment will be logged. Now other user will not be able to access this, so we will be putting pessimistic lock here so that people won't be able to read or won't be able to write anything. So we log this assignment. Now this is how we are going to manage concurrency. That means our system is going to handle one request at a time. So it will log the assignment, and then this inventory service will say that okay, assignment has been logged and you can place the order. Now this order service will confirm the order, or we can say will place the order, and then this order service will trigger an event called order placed. So this event will go to store service and delivery service through some Kafka queue. So here we will be having Kafka queue, and this order service will act as a producer in this case, and store service and delivery service are going to act as a consumer because they are going to listen those topics or listen those events. Now this order service will send this event to store service, and it will also send this event to delivery service through some Kafka queue. So here we will be having Kafka queue. Here also we will be having Kafka queue. So this order service will trigger an event called order placed, and this event will go to store service and delivery service through some Kafka queue. So store service and delivery service will listen to those events. Now they both will get to know that okay, there's some order. Now this store service and delivery service will act accordingly. That means they will perform their next or further task. So what is the task for this store service? Since this order service sent details to store service that okay, there's some user and he wants to buy this product, and it will also send the store ID that the product that user is looking for is in this store, let's say store ID 3. So what this store service will do, it will find an appropriate store. Let's say there are 3 stores, store 1, store 2 and store 3, and let's say this order service sent product ID and also store ID to store service. Now let's say the store ID is 3. So this store service will find out that okay, the item that user is looking for is currently in the 3rd store. So it will send that request to the store 3. So there will be employees who will listen to this event or listen to this topic, and then they will get to know that okay, there's some order. So they will pack their order and will send this to store service. How? Through store management system. Now what this store service will do, it will trigger another event called order packed. So this store service will trigger that event. Now there will be Kafka queue between store service and delivery service. So here we will be having Kafka queue. Now the moment this store service will trigger an event, which is this event, so this store service will send this event to Kafka queue, and through this Kafka queue the event will be sent to delivery service. In this case, store service will act as a producer and delivery service will act as a consumer. So this is how delivery service will get to know that okay, order has been packed. Now driver has to reach that location, or we can say driver has to reach to the store and will have to take that order and will have to deliver that order to user. So this is going to be the flow. And one more thing, we have discussed that this order service will triggers an event, and this event will be sent to delivery service through Kafka queue. But the question is, what data are we going to send to this delivery service? So through this Kafka queue we will be sending a user ID, user's contact and store ID in which product is available, and we will also be sending location in which we have to make a delivery. So this is the data that we are going to send to this delivery service. We will not be sending product details and product ID to delivery service. because of some abstraction and privacy. So there's no need to send product related data to delivery service. Now this delivery service will listen to those events and will get to know that okay, I have to make a delivery to that location, and the item that user is looking for is in currently this store. So this delivery service will find an appropriate driver or delivery partner. Let's say here we have a delivery partner. So this delivery service will notify this delivery partner through some WebSocket connection, WebSocket communication, that you have to take one order. Then this delivery partner will respond, okay, I'll take that order. And then this delivery service will send user ID, user's location, store's location, store ID to delivery partner, so that delivery partner will get to know where he has to reach to collect the order. So this delivery partner will get to know that okay, I have to reach to that location to take the order. Then this delivery partner will contact with the store and the driver, and the moment this delivery partner will send yes response to delivery service that okay, I'll take the order, it will send yes response. And the moment this delivery service will collect that, it will triggers an event and will send it to Kafka, and through this Kafka the event will be sent to store service. In this event, delivery service will tell to store service that okay, I have found the driver and he is reaching the store. So this is how they are going to communicate. And there will be one more service, that is nothing but the live order tracking service. So let me explain the functionality of live order tracking service here. Now this live order tracking service, here we have live order tracking service. So this service will also listen to Kafka events coming from store service and delivery service. So both the services, store service and delivery service, will triggers an event that okay, order is packed, order is collected, driver is reaching to the user's location. So all these events will be sent to live orders tracking service, and this live order tracking service will listen to those events and will send those events, or we can say will send live order or current status of order to user who asked for product through some WebSocket connection. So whenever this live order tracking service will get any update, there's a WebSocket connection will be established between live order tracking service and a user, or we can say here we will be having a WebSocket server. So here we will be having WebSocket connection, and whenever this live order tracking service will receive an update, this WebSocket server will send this update to user. So this is how user will get to know about the current status of his order. So this is pretty much for order service, store service, delivery service and live order tracking service. If you get confused, then please rewind the video and do watch it again. I make sure that you will be able to understand next time. So yeah, this is pretty much for this live order tracking service, delivery service, store service and order service. Now let's make a choice of database for each service, but before that let's see some ballpark figures. So according to some ballpark figures, there are 30 million plus active users on Blinkit, and on each day there are 2.2 million buys happen on Blinkit. So these are the data, or we can say these are the numbers we have. So on the basis of this data, let's see what can be the choice of database for each service. So first we have profile service. So for profile service we can use PostgreSQL database, or PostgreSQL database can store 100 million plus entries. So we have only 30 million users, so SQL database would be a good choice, and data will be well structured and we can also present that data in the form of table. So SQL database would be a good choice for profile service, and we will also be managing Redis cluster for faster retrieval. So this is about profile service. Now for search service, we will be using Elasticsearch cluster and also Redis for accessing that data fast. The next service that we can have is a cart service. So we have discussed that there are 2.2 million buys per day happen on Blinkit. That means data stored in the cart will be lot more than this. So for cart service, we are using NoSQL database, any NoSQL database, that is DynamoDB or Cassandra, and we are also using Redis for faster retrieval. Why we are using this NoSQL database? We have discussed because we want permanent kind of cart. So this is for cart service. Now next we have is a order service. So we have seen that our system is going to be read heavy and write heavy as well. There will be 2 million buys per day happen on our system. So should we use NoSQL database for that? Actually we can, but we should go with the SQL database. Why? Because let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say here we have a order service, and this order service just completed 5 orders, let's say. So this order comes in a completed order category. Now completed order category. So is it necessary to store this completed order data into database, or we can say database of order service? Actually no. So for live orders we will be using SQL database. Why we are using SQL database? When the write number is high, or we can say write TPS is high. So why we are using SQL database in this case? Because there will be transaction related queries. Two user will be trying to book the same product at the same time. So there will be transaction related queries. And one more thing, let's say here we have live orders, or we can say database for live orders. Let's consider this as SQL database. So once the order will be completed, there will be some kind of archiver. So what this archiver will do, it will fetch all the completed orders from live order database, or we can say order service database, or we can say database from order service, and then this archiver will send this data or dump this data to Cassandra database, which is a NoSQL database. You can use any other NoSQL database as well for this option. So this archiver will run some kind of cron jobs to fetch data from live order database and will dump that data to Cassandra. So for live orders, choosing SQL database would be a good choice, and we will also be using Redis for faster retrieval, because let's say if you ordered something, then it is obvious that you will be accessing that order. So for faster retrieval, let's store that data into Redis. So this is about live orders, or we can say order service. Now where are we going to store data that are stored in the inventory service, or we can say data that is managed by inventory service? So what this inventory service is managing? This inventory service is managing the details of product, whether the product is currently in stock or not. That means this inventory service is storing data related to product. Now let's say there are 100 million products available. 100 million products available. So we have discussed that a PostgreSQL database can store or can manage data, or we can say can manage 100 million plus entries. So for inventory service as well, SQL database would be a good choice, and we will also be managing Redis. So this is pretty much for all these services. Now I have discussed Redis for almost each and every service. For profile service I have discussed, for search service I discussed, for card service I discussed. So are we going to use different Redis for each service? No, actually we are not going to do this. That means we are going to use same or common Redis. We are also not going to do this. What we can do, we will simply, let's say here we have a Redis. So we will divide this Redis, or we can say distribute the Redis into different shards. Let's say here we have different shards. So we have distributed this Redis into different shards. Now let's say this shard represents the data, or we can say present the data for profile service, and this for card service. So this is how we will distribute the database into different shards, or we can say distribute the Redis into different shards. So this is pretty much for Blinkit system design. Now if you have any queries, please let me know in the comment section. I'll see if I can help you. And if you did not get this part, I would recommend you to revisit that part again, and I make sure that you will be able to understand that part. So this is pretty much for the system design of Blinkit. In the next video we will be discussing about the system design of Spotify. We'll see you in the next video. So till then, bye bye, show some love, thanks.